So last night when you accepted your IMDb award, congratulations.
Thank you, and thank you for being there. It's so sweet seeing your face.
I liked the idea that you were a chameleon for many years.
Yeah.
Explain to me what you were doing.
In my chameleon-like ability?
Yes.
Well, first it just was like a natural instinct where I thought, every time I get sides of something and there are different characters, it's like, well, of course I should try and play them as honestly as they would be, which means it's not me, it's somebody else. So I used to have, and actually Mary Elizabeth Winstead and I had a very long belly laugh about this, that our closets used to be so huge because you had basically like a costume wardrobe of every different type of person. Things that dressed you up, things that dressed you down, things that made you look older or younger, from different time periods, all sorts of different things. And I found putting on the right clothes and I'd listen to certain types of music really helped me transform. And the thing that I always struggled with being an actor, the thing that plagued me about it was that no matter how hard I tried, it would always be my face. And I wanted to get as far away from that as possible, because the reason why I act is not because I am in love with my face or in love with seeing it big or plastered on anything. I would prefer to have Andy Serkis's career more than anything. Like, I love what he's been able to do.
Are you a character actress?
I guess if you mean that I play different characters, but I feel like character then, like...
Meryl Streep is a character actress.
You would consider her a character actor?
Who became a star.
Okay.
Late in the day, though.
Yeah. That's true. To me, always character actor felt like it was diminishing it because it's making people characters instead of saying, I just want to see all sorts of different types of people.
Cool. Okay. So of course, we all discovered some of what you could do that we hadn't seen before in Short Term 12. It just seemed to give you room to run.
Yeah,
and
totally.
use a lot of your muscles.
Yeah.
And show your stuff.
Yeah.
And then, don't get mad at me, I was a little disappointed that that you didn't get a whole lot of great big roles, juicy roles of that scale. Were you a little disappointed?
No, I wasn't, because to me, my whole world changed, and although maybe it didn't seem like a huge change from the outside, but, up until Short Term 12, 80-90% of my life was auditioning. I mean, all I would do all day was have sides and go in and out, and if you're not familiar with the audition process, it's exhausting and it's hard, and you're constantly trying to prove yourself and act like you're not trying to prove yourself. Like, that's the fine balance. And you're working with people that are not familiar with your work, that don't know who you are, and are expecting you to read their mind. And what happened with Short Term 12 is part of that conversation went away, where even when I did have to audition, which was much less than before, people were familiar with my work and knew the range of what I could do. And so it was, okay, are you going to be the right fit for this? Can we work well together? Not, are you a good actor? The fact that that conversation, that sentence, that question was taken away, freed up so much time that shortly after Short Term 12, I was like, I had to relearn how to enjoy my life again. I was like, oh, I can read, I can watch movies, I can study, I can actually do my job better than ever before. And I had this eureka moment where I went, I might actually be a better actor than I realized, because now I have the time to really study it and do it. Whereas before it was just return the ball, return the ball, return the ball. You get the sides the night before and you have 2 other auditions that day and you just do the best you can. Now I'm able to really handcraft, which I didn't have before. And so I'm having so much fun.
Well, Room is the one where, what was your reaction to that material when it came your way?
I was deeply moved by it. When I first read Short Term 12, I had such a emotional, weepy reaction to it, and I felt this feeling in my stomach that was just such a burning sensation that I had to do everything in my power to do it. And I hadn't felt like that until I read the screenplay for Room. It had so much in there for me to work with, so much that I wanted to bring, so much love, and such a variation of the human experience, along with the basis of it being my favorite thing in the world, which is folklore and mythology. I mean, it's these very old stories, and that's what I'm looking for every time I read a script, is you have to have the thing that's initially on the surface that's going to get people sort of interested and into the story, but then there has to be this undercurrent, this river that's underneath the river, that's getting people to their core, to their older part of themselves that they're not even aware of.
What I loved about Room was this double thing, again, you were doing, where you're on the one hand intensely focused on your child, and on the other fighting this insane depression.
Yeah.
Explain what you're doing there.
Well, it's a game really of building everything up inside of myself, kind of getting yourself to this point of like madness, insanity, depression, whatever you want to call all of those things, and then suppressing it. So basically the only thing that shows is this little glimmer. And in the case of this movie, you have Jacob, who plays Jack, who's just movement and light and energy. And so when you put those two together, it's sort of an alchemical reaction. If you put the two of us in that room, a beautiful thing happens, where I'm completely consumed with whatever it is my character's going through, and he's doing his thing. And then when you have to interact with it, it becomes that balance that you're talking about.
The director was very praising you for really tuning into Jacob and helping Jacob. That was a sweet thing he said.
Yeah, it is sweet.
Because that must have been selfless in a way. I mean, it was hard to get the kid to do what he had to do, and you had to not think about yourself as much.
Yeah, but I look for that in every movie, to be honest. I'm not somebody that wants to be in a movie where it's like everyone needs to be quiet so that I can do my thing. You know, I did a musical in India, and that was the beginning of the most humbling experience of my life, because you're fighting against all these elements and no one cares what I'm doing. You start to become humbled to the fact that I am one small piece of it, and Ma is doing everything for him. So it became very easy for me to put my performance separate or second to his. It was all about him. My day, and even as we're doing this press, is all about making sure that he's okay, making sure that he's comfortable, making sure that he understands the question. Or if we're in a huge theater and the lights are on us and it's dark, I showed him how to cover the lights so that he can see. I'm more concerned still with his comfort level than it is about my experience with all of this.
So you shot in chronological order, right?
Yeah.
You did the whole room
For
first.
the most part. There was like a few things, but for the most part completely in chronological order.
And so you guys are all crammed in there, the crew and everything, and then you got liberated to do the second part. And it sounds like it was difficult to make that transition.
Yeah, it's very funny, because usually the creative process of making the movie ends up in a very mysterious way mirroring the actual movie itself, the plot of the movie, and Room was no exception. So we were filming, we had Room built on a soundstage, and we were there for maybe a month, and it's very cramped. The whole plot point is that it's small for two people. So imagine then having a crew of 6, 8 in there at the same time. You're constantly in the way of somebody. I would feel in the way of my own close-up. You're getting your feet stepped on. You're getting a door slammed in your face. Everyone's trying to cram into these small spaces, and it reminded me a lot of when my parents had the grand idea to get an RV when I was about 10 and my sister was 6, where within 24 hours we all wanted to kill each other. It's the same thing. It's like, as much as you love someone, being in that close space, it's like you just want your own room. And so the whole time as this was going, and as it was getting harder and harder, and tensions were starting to rise and people get agitated with one another, the crew kept going, I just can't wait until we have this escape. Because like I said, we're shooting in chronological order, so they're like, every day we're getting closer to this escape, and you can feel the momentum building each day as we're getting to this escape. And like, once we get out of this place, it's going to be so much better. And of course it wasn't. Then we're outside, and it's dead of winter in Toronto. It's like negative 20 degrees. We're stuck in snowstorms. The snow is up to our heads. We're shooting outside. I have to be shooting as if I've just exited room, so I'm in a tank top with no bra and socks. And it was so much harder. And the other aspect that the crew of course didn't realize, but I knew going into it because I had done so much research on trauma, that while in room, that was going to be the easiest I was ever going to play Ma. That was the least emotional Ma was ever going to be inside room. It's not until afterwards, when she's in a safe place, that's when the panic attacks, that's when the anger, that's when the real depression and the real weight and heaviness and the recognition of what happened happens. So there was a very false feeling of liberation, actually, when the escape came. And within a week of it, the crew was like, really wish we were back in room. Which is exactly what Lenny and I had hoped for at some point while you're watching the film. That you hate to have the thought, but you start to see that the world is so complicated and things can be so hard that you're like, I do kind of wish that simple space that they were in. It was sort of sweet, and now everything's much more complicated.
Well, in a way, it's also simpler on a screenplay level, and then there are all these other elements that come in that you have to deal with in a short amount of time. So the book is very focused on the boy. It's his point of view, right? So the movie extends that out so that we're getting his point of view and your point of view.
Yeah.
Much more. And your mother's point of view, played by Joan Allen. So it just becomes a lot more complicated, and it's almost like how much time is it going to spend on how much are we going to get? It almost was so, I almost wanted more information.
I know. There is like another, like an alternate reality where this could have been like a 7-part miniseries where you saw from every person. Well, we shot so much. I mean, there's actually a lot that didn't make it in the movie because Lenny and I were so curious and excited by this concept. I mean, this is based off of the Plato's Cave allegory, which is one of my favorite stories, and it had such a great opportunity to not only just share with the world this concept of we choose the reality that we want to believe in and we live in it and we close ourselves to it, and the idea of something being outside of it or different is terrifying. This is our whole world. You know, I think we've all experienced a moment where you realize that there's a crack in your reality and it's like crippling. You want to crawl underneath your bed. And then the other side of it is, because Jack hasn't seen the world before, it became this whole other exploration of what does this world look like right now with the technology, with how fast we move, with our weird social interactions, with the way that we smile always at a camera, it doesn't matter how sad you are. All of these small little things. Fashion. I was obsessed with the idea of Jack seeing fashion for the first time because it's bizarre. But these are all things that we're like, you know, we go about our day and we're like, and I go to my job and this is Starbucks and this is how things work and I move around and everything's moving very fast. But to him it's like, what on earth, why would we do it like this? And I loved that. I loved that we were going to be able to see from such an innocent, sweet, non-judgmental perspective of saying, gosh, we're really not seeing a lot of stuff that's going on right now.
So one of the scenes in the movie it involves you being interviewed and being criticized. Mm-hmm. And I wondered what your take was on what the character needed from her child while she was in the room.
Oh, you mean in room, not from the interview?
Yes, in room.
Well, I think that Jack had a very big job in room to be everything. He had to be not just her son, but her best friend, and I could see his face shifting into many roles. He had to be dad sometimes, he had to be, you know, little boy sometimes, but he had to be her girlfriend from when she was in high school. Like, he basically becomes this like little life that has to be everything. It's quite simple for him as a child because all he needs is a mom. So it's just mom. He doesn't have any relationship to anything else. So it's just, she gets to be everything. But she has lost so much that she has to create a certain level of intelligence, and she creates this like mini version of herself in a way in order to communicate, in order to work things through. But at the same time, there are some deep, dark things that are happening in that room that she has nobody to talk to about. And we do get glimmers of that in the movie, of those moments when he's asleep, where she is coming to terms and feeling this sense of loss that she is unable to share with anybody.
So that's when it becomes like a prison escape movie.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah.
You get caught up in the suspense of how she has to shift and turn her son into an ally in her escape.
Yeah. And that to me, it's a much more intense visual version of it, but I think we all have moments when we're a kid and we have to grow up really fast, or something happens and the world is calling you and saying, all right, time to learn some of the big stuff, and it's absolutely terrifying and you don't want to do it, and it's so much nicer to stay a kid, but the world is calling your name and you got to do it.
So talk a little bit about Lenny, what he's like as a director. How did he help you?
He's just the best. I can't say enough. I'm getting emotional as I'm talking about him. I could not have asked for a better director. Absolutely wonderful. He is, as a person, has so much sensitivity, is so intelligent. He knows a lot about philosophy as well, as do I, so we had a great time discussing morality, discussing psychology, discussing philosophy in regards to this project. And he is not just a dad, but a really, really good dad, and I find that to be a quality that I respect so much, because no dude has to be a dad. I think women inherently have that, but I don't think it's always natural in men, and he has it. And he loves every living creature. For however many months I've known him, it's almost been a year now, you cannot walk by a dog without him immediately going, oh, you sweet angel. He just looks into people's eyes as if they're just these precious, beautiful babies. And that was so important to me. It's so important in going into this project that I wasn't dealing with someone who was going to be like, let's show it. Let's show the darkness. Let's show the pain, because that's not what I think this movie is about, and I don't think that's what the world needs at all.
Although you still had to go to some of those places, so it must have been a bit emotionally rough for you.
Sure. There were some days that were really, really exhausting and really, really hard. But I'm a scuba diver, and I think about doing scenes like that a lot, like scuba diving. So you have to plan your dive, and you have to go, okay, I'm going to go this deep. And when I go that deep, you only have so much air in your oxygen tank, so you can only go there for so long. And the descent up, you have to do it slowly. And then you got to take a certain amount of break in between before you can do your next dive. It becomes very simple once you can kind of think about it that way, because then you can go to the place that you need to go, but then you can safely get out of it, and you don't feel like something was ripped out of you. And when you have someone like a Lenny who gives incredible hugs and really respects and understands and loves the place that you're coming from, it's fine. It's easy. Go have a bowl of pasta afterwards. It's another day.
So what else do you have coming up?
I'm prepping for a movie called Kong Skull Island, and it's the new King Kong.
And what role are you playing?
Well, I can't really say it, but I'm playing a woman.
Who might be blonde.
May or may not be blonde. Maybe not quite as blonde as I am now.
Are you going to be strong and
of course,
and have a lot of fortitude?
Of course, it's me, as if I would set onto a big movie and just be like an object sitting there. No. I've been working out for 2 hours a day. I'm going to get like huge arm muscles. I'm going for it.
Get it up there.
Wait, you got to get it. You got to get it in the right light. Wait,
there
just
we
the
go.
right. Do you see it?
All
it's
right.
right there.
All right.